What is up, everybody? It is your local Ottawa fan, and I'm here just to do a very quick, probably much shorter video on the Grey Cup debrief. As you can see, I've even got much more casual wear, but I figured, well, if we're going to do a debrief on the season, I might as well wear what I got from when the Red Blacks won the Grey Cup back in 2016. So the Toronto Argonauts go to the Grey Cup against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and Toronto wins 41-24. Now, as many of you know, Toronto was the team I wanted to see win the least. I was not happy with the result. But there's at least a silver lining. Chad Kelly is not the one who led them to the Grey Cup. It was Nick Arbuckle, who, I like Arbuckle, and, I'm happy for him. He won Grey Cup MVP, and I'm actually hopeful that maybe this will have some Argonauts brass wake up a little bit. Nick Arbuckle won Grey Cup MVP. You don't need Chad Kelly. You don't. Because you literally not only won a Grey Cup without him, but the quarterback who replaced him won MVP. Now how did we get there? How do we get to Chad Kelly not playing? Against Montreal, Toronto and Montreal, which was, by the way, best game of the playoffs, a final score of 30-28. Fun, entertaining game. I wish I got to watch more of it, but it was a good game. He goes down with a brutal leg injury. He's going to be out at least 6 to 9 months. It could completely torpedo his next season, potentially, depending on rehab, depending on how long it takes. Who knows how long he's going to be out for. And mixed feelings. I personally am somebody who does not like to cheer for injuries in general. I don't like to cheer when a player gets hurt. I don't like to, I'm just somebody who generally is not into that. The same with calling for, a coach to get fired or a GM to get fired. It's I get it, but at the same time, I think you never want to see somebody lose their job. You never want to see somebody get injured. But at the same time, if I had to pick anyone in the CFL to get injured, I'd pick Chad Kelly, and so would everybody else. The dude's a creep. He's done some pretty detestable stuff, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. He shouldn't be in the league. If I were commissioner, he would not have gotten a 9-game suspension. He would have gotten a 99.99999999999 repeating percent of his life ban. And if he makes it to 108, then we'll let him start a game. No, see, I fully disagreed with the ban of only 9 games. I thought it was way too light. And in some ways, does it feel like the football gods were taking karma out on him? But at the same time, that feels to me, that feels wrong to say that oh, this is just karma, and what goes around comes around. It's a brutal injury, a potential career ender. And if it was any other quarterback, I wouldn't be calling it that. But what if Toronto's doing really well next season when he's healthy again? Do they, A, put in an injured quarterback? Not a quarterback who's a little rusty because he had a suspension, but a quarterback who you don't want to re-injure. If Nick Arbuckle's playing well and he won Grey Cup MVP, maybe there's a little more wiggle room to keep Chad Kelly on the bench. Sure, you got to pay his contract. That does not mean you have to play him. Nowhere in the contract does it say you must play Chad Kelly for X amount of games. You could pay him money to hold a clipboard, let his contract expire, and have no team in the league re-sign him. Personally, that is what I hope happens. I hope that we've seen his last down of football already in the Canadian Football League. But, having somebody's career end to injury is not the justice I was hoping for. I was hoping that his career would end as a result of the CFL standing up for what is right. But I was happy to see Nick Arbuckle do well. And I think that the Chad Kelly injury is a big piece of Toronto winning, because Winnipeg going into this game, we're supposed to dog walk Toronto. It wasn't supposed to be close. I remember, leading up to the Grey Cup, I was listening to TSN 1200, as I do all the time. And if you want to hear my thoughts after Sens games, Red Blacks games, Charge games, tune in. More often than not, I'll be calling in. So TSN 1200, if you want to hear my thoughts before the videos, I mean, they're great. Always enjoy talking to them. But I would listen to them as well, and they were saying that they were worried that it wouldn't be an entertaining Grey Cup because of how one-sided the game was going to be. And I mean, ultimately, it was a blowout. I had a bet with my friends on what the final score was going to be. We would bet on the winner and the final score. Now, we all said, yeah, Winnipeg is winning. So then the second tiebreaker was, all right, well, what's the final score? And I said, oh, come on, this is going to be a complete blowout. It's going to be a blowout. And I was right, to be fair. It was just a blowout for the other team. And I think a part of that is Winnipeg has made 5 straight Grey Cups now. They have been here. They won their first 2. And they got the monkey off the back. Nearly 30 years of failure. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. They'd get to the Grey Cup, they'd lose. Constant losing, they finally got it done. And then the entire league shut down. Then they got back to the Grey Cup, and they won again. In one of the best Grey Cup games, a thrilling overtime win. Up here with this one, the 104th Grey Cup. It was a very memorable game, and I legitimately, it's right up there with the Ottawa-Calgary game, the first round of Ottawa-Calgary. And then they faced Toronto the first time, and they were kind of favored. It was a close, good game. They lost. Okay, they didn't quite get the three-peat. It happens. Then they faced Montreal. They should beat Montreal. I mean, they are the dominant force. 3 Grey Cups in 4 years. Still a dynasty. Still impressive. And, on the last drive, Montreal wins. They stay in the game, and they get the win. Okay, they dropped back-to-back Grey Cups that they probably should have won. There is a very realistic universe where this video is about the unprecedented 5-peat that Winnipeg went on. And instead, that 3-peat that they were asking for in 2021, they got it. Came a few years late, and not in the way they wanted. Because the first game against Toronto, Winnipeg was favored, but I think Toronto winning it wasn't oh my gosh, what an upset. The game against Montreal, it was an upset. It was a significant upset. But this game should never have been close. The backup beat them. The backup. In the Grey Cup. They had an ugly start, and people were saying, oh, Coloros is cooked. That's it. And then, boom, they start clicking. And then it fizzled out in the Grey Cup. Now, to be fair, a big reason for that is the injury. Coloros gets a finger injury, puts on a glove, and his throwing is just off for the rest of the game. It was a close game until that moment, and then he just didn't play to the level that we're used to seeing him playing at. And Toronto is able to pull off the upset and win the Grey Cup. This is their 3rd Grey Cup in 6 years, I believe. They won 2017, then 18, 19. Oh, no, this is their 2nd Grey Cup. Next year could be their 3rd and 6th. But from 2017 to now, which is 7 years, they've won 3. Toronto's been very good. Now, each of those 3 teams look very different. They aren't the dynasty that Winnipeg is in the sense of it's kind of the same team. But nonetheless, if you're an Argos fan, you've been eaten. You are fat and happy. And for Winnipeg fans, it's you okay? They get close and they lose. I mean, they got so close and then they can't finish. And the weird thing is, they did it. They won the Grey Cup back-to-back. So it's not a narrative of like, oh, they don't know how to win the big game, because they do. They've done it. Collaros has won Grey Cup MVP before. But it was a wild ride. And now we look to next season. So the other games, like I said, there was the Montreal-Toronto East Final. The West Final was Winnipeg-Saskatchewan. Winnipeg winning, of course, 38-22. Saskatchewan beating BC in the West semifinals, 28-19. And, of course, we had the Red Blacks game, 38 for Ottawa, 58 Toronto. In case you were wondering, yes, we are the highest scoring team in the playoffs to not win a game. In terms of, single game. Though, I mean, if you think about it, Montreal had a grand total of 28 points. Saskatchewan had 50 across 2 games. We had 38 in 1. But our defense didn't show up. But if you want my thoughts on the game against Toronto, I got a video on it, and you can go and watch that one. And while you're at it, why don't you like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more CFL content, if you want to see NHL content. I've got some Sens videos coming out, and believe me, boy, do I have thoughts. And of course, if you're a PWHL fan, if you're a fan of the Ottawa Charger, or any of those leagues in general, or if you're just a fan of Ottawa sports, or if you just like hearing me talk, like, comment, subscribe, I appreciate that. Yeah, I like doing these videos, and I like to know that other people enjoy me doing these videos. It's fun. So if this is your cup of tea, yeah, stick around and go watch my East semifinal video. Watch it and hop back here. Looking forward to next season. Expectations. As a Red Blacks fan, I think that's my number one. What do I expect of the Ottawa Red Blacks? A playoff win, or at least really competitive game. The game got away from us. The thing is, it was competitive for most of the game. We were at least, realistically in it until the final less than 5 minutes to go in the game is when it was really starting to get out of hand. I'd really say the 2-minute mark is when I lost all hope that we would win. So it was, for the most part, competitive. So I would say win, or at the very least, get it down to the final play. Down by 6 at the 35. Okay. We could score and tie or win the game. We could. So maybe get to there, but the first step was making the playoffs. We had 4 years of missing, just doing nothing, having terrible records, losing at home so much, and I'm a season ticket holder now, so I had a lot of miserable nights. I was recently a season ticket holder. I actually think I started the last year of the drought. Year 4, but I have gone to a bunch of Red Blacks games throughout that drought, and I think I saw one win before I got season tickets. And upon getting season tickets, let's see, we beat Edmonton, Winnipeg, Saskatchewan. We did terrible at home. We did horrendously at home. Across 4 years, we won nothing. And I can tell you, I went to dozens of games, and I saw loss after loss after loss. This season, we didn't get that. 7-1-1. Best home team in the league. If we got a home playoff game against Toronto, I genuinely think we would have won. And I'm not kidding you. Because first off, like I said, it was close until the end. And second off, we are just a different team at home, which is nice. You know what? I get winning at home means you're only winning half the time. Half the time is better than none of the time, especially in the CFL, when having a 500 record probably gets you into the playoffs. Look at this season. We were 9-8-1. We were barely above 500. We were above 500 by a tie. This is as close as you can get to 500 being above 500. And we made the playoffs. Because if you're above 500 in the CFL, you are a playoff team. So, improve on that. Defense was horrible that game, and we did get rid of our defensive coordinator. He's going to be a head coach. Okay, I'm just going to say it right now. He is going to be a head coach, probably of the Edmonton Elks. But if we can somehow get Rick Campbell, because Rick Campbell fired by the BC Lions. Now, Rick Campbell, like, he's royalty here. The head coach that finally got us back to the promised land. Brought us to 3 Grey Cups, and he won us one. It's so tempting, but the thing is, there would be a power struggle. If you take Rick Campbell in, you either are demoting Bob Dice or you're giving Rick Campbell a position that is below him. Which leads me to my next point, which is next season's going to be interesting. Because there felt like there was a lot of parity in this league. The only team that I'm like really confident is going to stink next season is Calgary. And then the other 8, I have no idea. Again, Toronto, who knows? The quarterback situation, who knows? Are we going to get the Nick Arbuckle that was Grey Cup MVP, or the Nick Arbuckle that'll throw you like 4 picks in a single half? Who knows? The Winnipeg Blue Bombers, same situation. What Zach Collaros are we going to get? Are we going to get the guy who made Winnipeg the scariest team in the league, or the older, not quite as prime Zach Collaros? Hamilton, similar with Bo Levi Mitchell, and just in general, Hamilton had a topsy-turvy season where they looked awful, then they were really starting to right the ship, but it was too late. What are we going to get? Are we going to get the awful team that started the season, or the really good team to end the season? The same goes for the Red Blacks. We had the reverse effect. Super strong start, super terrible finish. What team are we going to get? The only team I'm confident is going to be good next season is Montreal. I'm like pretty sure that of all the teams in the league, like the one team that I would be like, yeah, they're making the playoffs next year, no doubt, don't even question it, is Montreal. But I can see a universe where Ottawa misses the playoffs, where Hamilton misses the playoffs, where Edmonton misses the playoffs, where Toronto misses the playoffs. I do think Calgary probably will miss the playoffs, and I said Montreal probably won't. That leaves, 3 teams? Let's see. Winnipeg, I said, might miss. Ottawa might miss. Toronto might miss. Hamilton might miss. Edmonton might miss. Calgary probably will. Montreal probably won't. That leaves BC and Saskatchewan. Again, Saskatchewan after Labor Day. And BC also had a similar record to us. They were middle of the pack. They had a good season. My prediction for next season is that we are going to see the same playoff teams, except we're going to swap BC for Edmonton. I think Edmonton's finally going to get back to the playoffs. I also think the seeding is going to be different. I think we're going to be the 2nd seed. I do. I think that the Toronto injury to Chad Kelly is really going to mess up their season. I think we're going to get a good look to get a good defense coordinator so that we actually stay consistent throughout the season. Drew Brown is a really good quarterback. The other thing is Nathan Rourke. Nathan Rourke is going to be shopped, and whoever gets him, that changes the game. If Calgary gets Nathan Rourke, then they immediately then every team could make the playoffs. Like, we might have a race to the finish where it's like week 21, and like there are still 5 or 6 teams that are alive in the playoff race but not clinched. Like, it could get crazy, which now that I've said it, just watch it be like the most one-sided obvious thing, and by like week 17 everything's decided, because the CFL is weird, and that's kind of why I love it. But Ottawa made some really good progress, wonderful steps to where we want them to get to. Get a good defensive coordinator. Same with Rick Campbell. Nathan Rourke, it's tempting. Don't do that to Brown. Don't, because, or not Nathan Rourke, sorry, Vernon Adams. Vernon Adams is who's being shot. But yeah, don't do that. Don't take him, because then you're just really backstabbing Brown. And that's the one thing with Edmonton. I could see it, but damn, would that be cruel to Trey Ford. That would irreparably ruin the relationship Edmonton would have with Trey Ford. If they finally are starting to acknowledge that Trey Ford is the future of Edmonton, only to immediately get another quarterback to become the number 1 and push Trey back to the number 2 quarterback. If I'm Trey Ford, I get out of there as soon as possible. If there's one team that is in like super desperate need of a quarterback, it's Calgary. Other teams I could see, Hamilton, Bo Levi is great. He's old. Not gonna last you forever. I could see Hamilton. I could see Toronto because, you know, Chad Kelly's injured. You put him on IR. You pick up Adams. And if he does good, then maybe you just avoid that PR nightmare. And, you know, you got your guy. And he's not Chad Kelly. I'm going to do more thoughts as the offseason, you know, gets deeper. We're going to obviously see a lot of players trade hands. Red Blacks, if I can ask you one thing, sign a Darius Pickett. Keep him on this team. His injury was the turning point. If Pickett is healthy and we have a home game, we don't beat Toronto in the East semifinals. We beat Winnipeg in the Grey Cup. That is how much of an impact Pickett has. But yeah, off-season mode has officially begun, and I'm looking forward to whatever happens. And as always, go Ottawa, go!